I had a really great time doing our research for the Christmas movie and musical Elf. There was so much in there that just kind of lifted your spirits, and I had such a good time doing my research and trying to learn about all the different people who played, both in the Broadway musical as well as in the movie. And one of the things that I saw was that every single one of them really had worked very hard to develop their craft and get this opportunity that came their way. Nothing was easy. Every single one of them had worked really hard. And then when they had this part and they were a part of the movie or the production on Broadway, they found such great thrill and joy in doing it. There were a lot of little tidbits I thought I'd share with you that I kind of discovered about some of the different people. Thomas Meehan, I told you how Thomas Meehan was the person who had written the book for the musical Annie on Broadway, and then did the producers, and then Hairspray. He did that in his 70s. He was 81 when he was asked to do Elf. He was a great storyteller. And one of the reasons he's a great storyteller, when he was growing up, in the period of 1938 to 1948, he and his brother lived in a small town, and they would then have a movie theater that had a double feature that changed 3 times a week. And they never missed a single one. 6 movies a week. That was about 312 movies a year. And over that 10-year span, he and his brother saw more than 3,000 movies. But it was seeing that many movies that really began to help him know, how do you tell a story? Matthew Skyler, he would be the composer for the musical there for Elf. Matthew Skyler, again, as a young boy growing up, he already had a musical talent, and he loved watching the Mickey Mouse Club. They always invited people to perform an original number. He wrote a musical piece when he was in junior high. His mom and dad helped to get it recorded, and then they sent it off to Disney. He was invited to come to Disney. There he performed it. They paid him $100, flew him there, and they gave him a trophy as a part of the Mickey Mouse Club Hall of Fame. And he still has it sitting on his shelf right along with all of his other awards. Now, he had already done a number of different musicals. When it was Mark Kaufman, the director, came to him and said, we have the rights to Elf. And I was thinking, and it turned out that Matthew didn't even let him finish the sentence and said, I'll do it. In 2003, he had seen the movie. And he said he laughed and laughed the whole way through. In fact, Matthew said, my favorite time of year is Christmas. And I'm Jewish. Matthew did a great, great job. Ben Foster, he played Buddy in West End in London in Elf. He again worked very hard, had a great career, but while he was playing the part of Buddy, he was up on a ladder decorating the tree when he slipped and fell, hit the stage, broke his ankle in several places. They had to bring the curtain down. It was the end of the show, and Ben Foster did not get to complete the run of playing Buddy the Elf. It was one of the great sad things in his own life. Bob Newhart, here he was in the movie Papa Elf. What an amazing guy. He loved playing Papa Elf in the show Elf. It turned out that in 1960, he was an accountant. And as an accountant, he was also doing kind of some stand-up comedy. That's what he loved doing. And he even actually got to cut a record with his stand-up comedy routines. It was called The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. When it came out, lo and behold, it went gangbusters and went to #1 on the Billboard charts. He followed up with The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, and it went to #2. He is the only comedian to have #1 and #2 slots on a Billboard chart, beating out people like Frank Sinatra, incredible singers. He was #1 and #2. And of course, that was years ago. And so it really touched him to be asked by Jean Favreau to come back and to play the part of Papa Elf. And he said, it's really wonderful. I have a whole new group of fans. They're younger now. I get a lot of letters, but they're all written in crayon. And then there was George Wendt. George Wendt, I was telling you how, he played Norm there in Cheers, how he grew up in Chicago and he graduated from college and he came back to Second City, the theater that helps you with improvisation. And he worked as a janitor there as well as trying to get on stage for 6 years. But when he did, he got his break with Cheers, and what a difference it made. But he was also, and I didn't get to tell you some of the other people who graduated from Second City: Dan Aykroyd, Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert, and of course, George Wendt. He got to play Santa Claus on Broadway. He loved what he was doing. He was also the person who helped to coin the phrase about the Chicago football team, the Bears. And he loved getting to do that. Will Ferrell. Here Will Ferrell went straight from Saturday Night Live to playing in Elf. And when he played in Elf, it was so successful. The movie made over $220 million. Hugely successful. One of the top 3 movies every year now for Christmas. They came back and they wanted to do a sequel to Elf. And they offered Will Ferrell $29 million to do the sequel. And he turned it down. He didn't want to do anything to diminish the character of Buddy and the story that was told. He said, no, we don't really need to make a sequel. Turned down $29 million. Every single one of these people, when you go back and I learned their story, had to work really hard to find themselves. Will Ferrell lived at home for 2 years after he graduated from college. Same thing was happening with George Wendt, and you just go right on back down the line. But they all found it. They all achieved their dreams, and they all loved being a part of Elf, whether it was the movie or the musical on Broadway or in West End. Because there was something about the message that just made it a great time. Remember the first message or the first lesson for the Code of Elves we talked about on Sunday? First lesson is, treat every day like Christmas. Treat every day like Christmas. That's what they did, and I think that's what we're supposed to do. Because if you and I would start every day in gratitude to God for the gift of His Son, and if you and I would reach out to love one another, it would change the way that you and I see the world and the way you and I live. It would help to bring us great joy. We would know the joy of Christmas, whatever we're doing, and whatever the circumstances of life. Treat every day like Christmas, and it'll change your life. I hope you enjoyed Elf. This next week, we're going to be doing Evan Hansen, and it's a whole different field, but it's going to talk about the importance of us needing each other. And what an important message for us to be hearing in our world today. We're in this together, and we need each other. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining in with the Pastor's Cut.